Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cringe Squadcast, episode 2. Here I'm joined by your main host, Russell.
Hello there.
I'm also joined by Vignesh.
Hello, boys.
Another person joining us is Chad. He wasn't here for our last episode.
Hello.
And lastly, but not least, we have Ryan.
Hey guys.
All right. So, Russell, would you like to get us started?
Of course, Mr. Dillon. Welcome to the second episode of the Cringe Squadcast. I think we're all very happy to be here. But really quickly, before we get on to the main topic of the episode, which was how we all met, I want to quickly mention, the current analytics of the first episode and the overall response to it. Um, Oh my god, you guys blew the first episode out of the water with how big it got over over not almost over a week. Cause now it's on the first day alone, um it got like 65 views, which is crazy. And then now currently I believe it's at 142 views, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So from the bottom of my heart, and as well as everyone else on this episode, we thank you guys so much for the big giant support for the first episode, and we all appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we
thank you
we
so much.
thank all of you for watching the first episode, and now we won't really want to make even more episodes to satisfy all of you guys. So again, thank you all of you for the generous support for the first episode, and now we're gonna continue making more episodes every Friday, and now continue going to the main subject, Dylan.
All right. So, as you know, today's episode topic is how we all met. So, Russell, I'm actually going to hand it back to you and tell us how you met me and Aiden, who cannot be with us this episode.
Well,
So, yeah,
thank you,
take it away.
Dylan. Yeah, thank you, Dylan. Now, me, Dylan, and Aiden, we all met within the first grade. Um, I believe Aiden and Dylan met first. And I believe it was around the start of first grade. Am I correct in saying that, Dylan?
Yeah.
So yeah, they met first, and obviously, around mid to late first grade, that's when I came into the picture, and then we all became, the three of us became friends, and, became on board since then. And then in second grade, that's when we met, a former friend of ours, Cody, who unfortunately is not in the friend group anymore because of certain actions that he did. Kind of made us rethink hanging out with him.
Really going to depth on that, though, because, yeah.
I don't know if it's child friendly, but he did. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of is. If I say it kind of in a nice way, but anyway, if you guys ever are in middle school or especially high school, um, maybe not so much elementary school students, and for our elementary school student listening to this right now, I'm sorry, but Cody hanged out with a bunch of people who did a bunch of drugs. Um, Especially a certain kind of drug that begins with the letter W, which I'm not gonna say out loud because family friendly, and obviously I don't want to say that. But it began with a W, and that's when I kind of realized, hey, maybe Cody isn't the brightest person to hang out with. That eventually led on to not our friends, but other kids in school, um, and my cousins. But I won't get into that. Um, but yeah, and then yeah. So that's why we don't hang out with Cody anymore. But anyway, to get back to the main point, Cody, and I think we met Antonio by this point. Am I correct in saying that?
Russell, I'd actually like to say something real quick.
Oh yeah, sure.
We actually met Antonio, or I met him in kindergarten, but we really mostly became friends in first grade. And also another person we met in first grade was Ryan, but we didn't really like meet each other till closer to fourth, fifth grade. So you want to talk about that, Ryan?
Sure. Yeah, so I moved to Livermore around first grade. I don't really know anybody, obviously, but yeah, I met these other dorks in the call, Russell and Dylan, and well,
Wow.
or I met Dylan
Yeah,
in first
appreciate
grade.
it, Ryan.
I'm pretty sure I met. Shut up. I'm pretty sure I met Russell in first grade too. And then I met Chad and Vignesh in middle school.
Brings us to our next person. Oh, actually, before we get to Vignesh, I would like to talk about Levi and Franco, who cannot be in this episode.
Yeah,
So, Franco, we met him in third grade. He was in our class. We started talking and basically instantly became friends. Also, Levi, met him around fourth, fifth-ish grade. He was actually hanging out with Ryan at the time, and yeah, that's how he joined us as well. So yeah. So let's go on to how we met Vignesh. Would you like to take this one, Vignesh?
Yes. So yeah, my name is Vignesh. I met most of these people over here instead of Chad, but Dylan, Russell, Ryan, Levi, and Franco, most speak friends group, and for sixth grade. So how we met? We actually met Dylan and Aiden first, and in science class we actually talked and became friends. And after that later on became friends, and after that we actually met Franco and ELD, which is kind of like in a supporting class, and from there we actually became close friends as well. And then I met Russell, which in zero period, which was the most torturous period ever. So yeah, I met him and Antonio, and later on met Ryan and Levi, and we all became really 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 good friends till now.
Yeah.
yeah, and then I guess I'll take this one. And then I guess really the first time any of us met Chad, was I believe Dylan. I don't know, actually Levi. Which actually, Chad, wouldn't you want to take this one away since you obviously were the person
Oh,
that met
yeah,
the
yeah,
guy
thank you.
originally?
Okay, so how I met these my friends in Livermore is by my friend's cousin, and the cousin moved over to my school, so I just wanted to talk to him because you know he was my friend's cousin, and he felt like he was like left out, so I hanged out with him. We became very good friends. And on Xbox, he introduced me to these lovely guys, and I became friends with them. And they've been nice to me, and they have been accepting. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Um,
Indeed.
but yeah. So yeah, really, that's how we all met. I guess to go more into depth, kind of is that we, like any friend group in general, um, friends split apart. I think it would be
Yeah.
weird if a friend group didn't didn't have friends that split apart. Because if that was the case, you guys are probably just a whole bunch of nerds. But I think, yeah, like I said earlier, we started not hanging out with Cody. I think around middle school. I think around
Yeah.
seventh or eighth grade. That's when we really started not hanging out with him at all. And then we also, I think by the time high school started, which by the way, yes, me, Dylan, Vignesh, and I don't know about Chad, but I know
Yes.
for well, I guess all of us, we are now entering high school, um, which I can't believe is happening right now. But that's a whole another story, for a future episode. But
Feels like fifth grade was like yesterday.
exactly.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like I said earlier, Cody, we stopped hanging out with him, and then around, I think, eighth eighth grade started trickling into our minds, but I think around ninth grade was when it really became apparent that one of our old comrades, Antonio, really wasn't the brightest guy. Not in the fact of like he did drugs or anything. I don't think he ever seen.
And he did nothing wrong. He just, found new friends and moved on.
Yeah, and we didn't like his new friends, and they didn't like us. So Antonio just split off with them, and
I mean, there's a
we
little conflict, but,
yeah.
there's always going to be conflict.
And those friends that Antonio hang out with now, we I don't think we ever want to speak of again. And I think that's apparent for especially Dylan, but also a little bit of Vignesh because he knows what we're talking about, but more or less me and Dylan. Um, but yeah, so he split off with them, and then I don't know exactly who else split off from us, but we've had a number of friends that we just stopped hanging out with, and eventually just disowned from our friend group.
And
Because
also, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of our friends have actually moved, especially in like the earlier years, like elementary school and beginning
yeah,
of middle school.
yeah, and actually some of the more well-known ones that I could think about was Ryan, who did appear in the first few minutes of this podcast. He
And Levi.
moved. Ryan moved at the beginning, at the end of
It
sixth
was
grade.
it was the middle of sixth grade.
Oh yeah, the middle of sixth grade, and then Levi, he left at the end of seventh grade.
Or he moved before seventh grade started and after sixth grade ended.
Yeah. But and of course, this was around the time when I was dealing with personal issues, which I won't really go into now. But basically, it was not a happy ride for me. But thankfully, not only I have my family, helping me along the way, I also have my lovely friends, which I will give them 100% credit of. Because
Yeah.
like I said, we won't really go into that now, but around sixth, especially seventh grade, it was a dark time for me. But with my friends and my family, we all kind of brought together, and now most of us are still friends ever since.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you do you guys want to mention like any other stuff before we get on to the last few topics we want to mention in today's podcast?
Sure. Well, I mean, as you guys know, a lot of friend groups get into arguments, mostly over stupid things, but like most friend groups, we usually pull through at the end. And yeah, we've been staying friends. We've been, just getting over it together.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
tough
and adding
times.
on, yeah, sorry for
Mm-hmm.
interrupting, but adding on to that, yeah, we just like it's kind of surprising that Dylan, Aiden were like friends for years, which is actually a long time. And yeah, I'm actually really happy that I'm part of this friend group and happy that I have one of these support me.
We're happy to have you too, Vignesh.
Yeah,
I
Dylan.
think the real question that everyone asks whenever they're a part of a friend group is, where would I be right now if I wasn't a part of this friend group? And probably the answer would be most likely I would be way more lonely than I like I would be like very lonely, and probably would not be here by the age of 10. Um I know that's getting dark, but some kids have those minds, and especially it's really good for them to actually have those like any kind of friend to help them along the way. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, with around 6, and especially 7th grade, when I was going through a lot of personal issues, they were with me all the time. So, you know, I don't really think besides me, I don't think really anyone else had any personal issues. I think it was all just, if we ever had a problem, it was something that had to kind of relate to school, which we will be getting to in episode 5. And speaking of which, I think Dylan wants to mention something about episode 5. So you want to take that away, Dylan?
Definitely. So episode 5, as you know, we've been talking about someone who hasn't been on our podcast yet, but will be on this episode. It's Franco. He will be joining us on episode 5, which will be school stories. It will be October 16th, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah. And so I think really quickly before we end today's episode, I know this is kind of a short episode. Granted, the first one was only 23 minutes long, but I think we're gonna crack over the 20 minutes. But I think we have 2 more things to talk about, and then we're gonna say goodbye, and you know, have fun.
Yeah.
But really, I think I'll let Dylan take both of these ones, and then we'll close out the episode. So Dylan, take this one away.
All right. So, as we said in the past episode, you can be a guest star if you message Russell. And yeah, we'll give you a list of episodes, and you could choose one that you want to be on. And also give us some video ideas for our new short podcast, which will be on Wednesdays, Squadcast Shorts. Also, another thing, Russell, you might want to mention this. What happened?
So yeah, so like Dylan said earlier, if you want to be in on a future episode, or yeah, especially that one, but also if you want to, if you want us to talk about a certain topic on a future episode, again, DM me on my Instagram, which will again be at the description below. But a certain incident happened after the first episode. I think a day or two after the first episode came out, I had 2 people messaging me on Instagram. There were 2 separate people that wanted to be on the episode with the other person. So let's say this person number 1 was talking about, hey, can I be on the podcast with person number 2? And then person number 2 will start messaging me and say, hey, can I be on the podcast with friend number 1? And it was a whole back and forth, crisscross BS that eventually got to the point where it almost felt like they were trying to spam. And you can even ask Dylan this, because he was there, not to actually witness it, but he heard me trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do, because it got to the point where, because I knew these people, I knew one of them, and I knew that he was kind of a jerk, so all of a sudden trying to trust him now kind of seemed a little bit shady. So unfortunately I did have to block both of the people. So if you guys want to message me asking me to be on a future podcast episode, or to be to suggest an idea, be polite. And if you are, and then I can try and we can try and go back and forth on whatever you want to talk about. Just don't spam, and don't be an absolute douchebag about it, because then
Yeah.
I will feel like something is suspicious, and if it keeps on continuing, I will have to block you. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, lastly, I would like to give you guys a sneak peek of next episode. Episode 3. It will be next week on Friday. We're going to be discussing video games. So if you have an idea, like a video game you want us to discuss in that episode, just DM Russell and we'll make it happen.
So yeah, I guess that is the end of this week's episode of the Cringe Squadcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you to Dylan, Vignesh, and Chad for joining me for this episode.
And Ryan.
And Ryan. Obviously, he isn't here now, but you guys obviously saw him at the
Nate.
beginning of the episode. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next Friday for the video games episode where we're going to be talking about video games we previously played or are playing right now, and some that might have changed our lives for the better or the worse. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode, and stay tuned for next week for the video games discussion. So anyway, guys,
Yeah.
so long
Stay
for
tuned.
now.
See ya.